can I change my heart? I have an answer. The way that you change your heart is you learn the word. You learn what word God put out here for you to say. You study that word, not just on Sunday. You study it throughout the week. And then you live it and you speak it. Because as a man speaketh, you know who he is. See, our word can indict us. Sometimes, like they said, I think God told Peter that, you're going to betray me. You're not going to betray, that you're going to deny me, And Peter tried to deny him, but his word betrayed him. His word said that you are a child of the king. But they kept asking him anyway because they knew already, because of the things he had said, that he was a part of the kingdom. They knew that he was one of God's followers because his word betrayed him. You can tell anybody whatever you want, but then the word in your heart is going to betray you. So if you're living in the world, you can tell me whatever you want. Something about that, things you say or the way you act is going to betray you. And then if you're in God, you will hope that your word betrayed you. Oh, yeah. It's offensive. I've had a problem a couple of months ago, and I have to call Pastor Parker, I admit. I said something. I accidentally mentioned that I was a preacher at school. And we were talking about that section in the book. So they tried to get me in trouble. I was frustrated. I said to myself, why are they doing this? And I realized that my walk betrayed me. Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. But it put me under attack. So when you're out there saying these things about God, who God is, don't think it ain't going to come with no penalties. You put yourself out there by your word. Oh, yeah, you do. By the way you carry yourself, by the way you act, and by what comes out of your mouth. So I want to just challenge you today to think about what you say. And I thought about this, and so what I did in one of my psychology classes, I said, let's do an experiment, because I'm into social experiments, and because I believe that you can get a lot of answers by trying to realize what is the cause of things. So I want you to try this too. For the anytime in the next week or two, I want you to take 2 days, and I want you to write down every time you say something that you felt was offensive. Every time you say something that you felt was offensive to others. And every time you wanted to say something, but you didn't. Oh, yeah. We don't always say what we want to say, but we think it in a word form. Anything that made it to that word form, write it down. And then I want you to look at that and say, wow, look at my heart. Because that's the only thing you can measure it against. That's what's in your heart. I just bid you to try that. It's going to give you some points about you that you may not understand. So I want to just look at 3 points here before we sit on down here. And the first thing is we understand, as I went over, we got to understand the powers of words. As I said, if you don't understand that the power of the word can be poisonous or it can be uplifting. You can change somebody's whole demeanor, especially us older folks who has a chance to influence young folks. We can change someone's whole perspective of life. They could have been having a miserable day and you could have said, God bless you. And that could have changed their whole day. That's all it takes sometimes. Some days I'm having a bad day and somebody said, oh, I hope everything's okay. Hope everything's all right. And it lets me know that other folks care. And I'm not so always negative about the world and the world problems and all the stuff going on. I'm more concerned about now how they're feeling because they cared about me. Jesus first cared about us and he showed us. And so we ought to care also about him and his people. And so that's one of my first points is that we just ought to understand the power we got in our words. And that's important. The second thing is we got to understand when we're misusing words. And know that if we're misusing words, what's the reason? Do we have some deep-seated pain that we never dealt with? Oh, yeah. Some people you see come to work, they're miserable. They got some deep-seated pain. You be like, I wonder what's going on in their home life. Something ain't right. You know, and I know a lot of times you want to tell them about God, but sometimes you might be nervous. But I think you should tell them. You know, there's a man that knows the answer to your problems. That man came down here 42 generations ago and told us what we need to do when there's a problem. We need to turn to Christ and lean on the word. See, one thing good about the word is that it comes with a promise. That's why I know the word is real. It comes with a promise. If it didn't have the promise, I think it'd be hard for us to have faith. I think it'd be hard for us to have perseverance. But when we know the promise of God, no matter what people say about us, even if they say you think you're a child of the king and you're blessed, you say I am blessed because I know the word. I know the promise. He told me that if I do right, all I got to do is do right. Oh yeah, I'm going to have some glory. I'm going to go through some things, but I'm going to be with the master one day. One day this walk is going to be over, and all the things that I said is going to be under the mic, and God's going to show us, and a lot of us are going to say, Lord, that wasn't me. But we've been indicted by DNA. And God said, oh, yes, it was. But the good thing about Christ is he says there's no condemnation. So he won't hold it against us. Thank God for that. He won't hold us against. We're going to say some things. He ain't going to hold it against us. Yeah, and I'm thankful for that because our God is a forgiving God. Because if he wasn't a forgiving God, I'd be in trouble. Oh, yeah. I'm going to go back, I know, to Seattle and counsel somebody and say something that's going to cut them up. And then I'm going to ask the Lord, oh, please forgive me. And he's not going to hold it against me. Because he know I didn't do it on purpose. Hey, that tongue slips. How many people have the tongue slipped on before? You didn't mean to say it, but it was in your heart, so it slipped. See, that's what it is. We say things we didn't mean to say. Sometimes we say, I ain't going to tell them. No, I ain't going to tell them how I'm feeling. I'm going to keep this to myself. But somehow we get to talking, and it just comes out. Yeah, we think it just came out. It was what was in our heart that came out. So we have to work on our heart condition. And the third point is that we ought to let God's word be true. And we ought to watch our attitudes. Because part of our attitude, it conditions our heart. And whatever conditions our heart affects our word. So we have to watch our attitude towards one another. Sometimes it's not even how we say. We don't have to physically say words. Because nonverbal communication is words, indirectly. Because we're telling folks stuff. We give them that look, husbands and wives are good at it. When they ain't talking to each other, but they looking at each other mean. You know what they're thinking. They ain't saying nothing, but they're looking at each other. They're thinking in their mouth. I can read people that I'm close to. I can read. They ain't got to say nothing to me. I know they saying it, though. They saying, oh, you really get on my nerves. And I know I did. I just said something to them or I did something to them. But they don't want to tell me. They just give me the look. That's a word. It's a nonverbal word. And so we need to watch our attitude so that we can be in control of our whole self. Because attitudes are also what causes people to just basically just say, you know what, I just don't care no more. And when you get to that point, you're not remembering Christ. All our walk needs to be about Christ. Everything we do, we need to reflect Christ. Would Christ say this to someone? Would Christ offend someone like this? You may be having problems with your boss, but if Christ was you, would he go to work and tell them what they can do? I can't even visualize Christ as saying, John, working on the boat with you was terrible, and I don't want to work with you no more because you had me out there all night long fishing, and, we didn't catch no fish, and, we didn't get much money. I'm not working with you no more because, you really get on my nerves. I can't imagine Christ saying that. Instead, I can imagine Christ looking for a solution and figuring out, how can I change this situation? How can I make things better? How can things be better for all of us? See, as people of Christ, we're entitled to do that. We have to do that. We have to look different than everybody else. Our speech has to convict us in a good way. It has to indict us. When we walk down the street, they need to know, oh man, I can't be talking that stuff around him because he's into God. I want them to know that. Sometimes you ain't even got to say nothing. It's the way you walk. I go places sometimes and, I'm dressed up, whatever, but somebody, are you a pastor? How do they know that I'm even in the ministry? something about the presence of God in you that will convict you. And people will say the words for you. All you got to do is live right, walk right, think right, talk right, and everything is going to be all right. It will be. We just got to hold on to this word thing. It's a reason why God used words. Oh, yeah. It's a reason why God made words so powerful. Man is the only speaking animal that we know. I mean, you got parakeets and all that, but that can speak to a point that we can communicate at a high level. And since we have this gift, we have an obligation. That obligation needs to be taken seriously. Oh, yeah. It needs to be taken seriously. You know, because if not, God will limit our abilities to proceed in life. I want to succeed in life. I want to do well. And what I've learned that as no matter what situation I'm in, no matter wherever I go, I've made up my mind to watch what I say. And if I'm thinking some stuff, I come to the altar and I leave it there. I leave it there. Because I'm going to tell you, because I'm a Christian, don't mean I ain't thinking nothing. That don't stop me from thinking stuff. David said, Paul said that, you know, when I think to do right, I do wrong. But I press ever towards the mark. So I'm pressing towards the mark to be careful. I want God to change me daily. I want him to check my language before I go. You know, I want him to make sure that what comes out of my mouth reflect him from the moment I leave. When I wake up in the morning, I want to say, hey, how you doing? And positive things. I want to speak goodness into my own life when I wake up. Affirmations is an important thing. We need to wake up speaking good things to the Lord. And the last part about what I want to say is that with the word, you can do a wonderful thing that's called praising. God said, I want to be praised. That's what he said. I didn't make it up. Look in Proverbs. He wanted to be praised. You know, that what made David's relationship with God so special. He spent a lot of time praising the Lord. Oh, yeah, he did. He spent a lot of time lifting up the name. Now, did he sin? Of course. Bathsheba, Solomon, yeah, he sinned. But guess what he said? Lord, I'm sorry. I did it. Now, please forgive me. And give me a clean heart. Oh, yeah. Give me a clean heart, because he knew it was a heart condition that made him react the way he did. He knew that his heart was in trouble. He knew that the things in his heart was not right. And God said, David is a man after my own heart. So he worked on his heart. Because if he had a heart condition, and then God says, man after my own heart, God can cleanse your heart. He can change your heart. He can change the way you think by changing your heart. When your heart changes, that's when you know. When you're on high blood pressure medicine, they check your heart, after a while you're getting good beats, you know everything's okay. Now, you can't check this with a thermometer or a thermostat or anything. You just have to check this with God. You got to know that you know. And then the reason why you'll know, you'll get some confirmation. You'll get some confirmation from people around you. People will like being around you. Even people who don't like you will like being around you. Isn't that crazy? They don't like you, but they like being around you. Oh, I don't like Blake, but he's a great guy. I like being around him. Where's that come from? People used to say that to me. They didn't like me, but they liked being around me. Maybe because I didn't say anything bad about them. And I always lifted them up. Oh, man, you're a good guy, God. So that's wonderful. So watch what you say. I want to end this sermon with I want to challenge you to every morning start with an affirmation. Because it starts when you wake up. It does. You start every day with something. When I wake up, I start with thank you for another day. And thank you for my mom and my family. That's my affirmation. I start off thanking Jesus. So today we need to start off, and every day we need to start off. We need to start it, finish it, and throughout the day, thank Jesus. So I want to encourage you now, from now on, to do, well, first of all, the experiment I asked. And then I want you to start off thanking Jesus from the moment you wake up. Lifting his name. Saying how grateful he is. Studying his word. And living by the word. Thank you. The doors of the church is now open. And as Reverend Parker come and receive, if there's any in this house who's not saved, the doors of the church is open.